This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
Start your wellness journey at Whole Foods Market, where it's Jumpstart January through the 16th. Stock up on supplements with some of the year's biggest savings. Plus, save on air-chilled organic boneless skinless chicken breasts, organic Honeycrisp apples, organic large Hass avocados, and more. And since Whole Foods Market is the only certified organic national grocer, it's easy to make them your wellness destination. Jumpstart your January now at Whole Foods Market.
Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. Happy New Year. I'm really excited about today's guest, Jennifer Keable. She's a success and well-being strategist all the way from Canada. We're live from Houston, Texas, as well as Canada. And today's talk is going to be all about strategies for success, industry challenges, a holistic approach to coaching, and advice for aspiring leaders, for those interested in starting their new business, becoming leaders, influencers, coaching as well. And it's going to be a fantastic discussion. Jennifer, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's good to be with you, Christopher.
Yeah. So I love these talks, and I love just chatting with people on the cutting edge, people coming up with new strategies. Set the stage, talk about your experience and background and how you came to do what you're doing.
Well, it's quite the story. So I'm going to try and see how I can cut it to make it fit our timing here. But I would say that throughout my life growing up, I was taught very strongly what success meant, right? And that had all to do with the external factors. So how much I made income-wise, how much I was able to save. It was my perceived responsibility by others. It was all of those external factors. And I chased that really hard, because to me, success was the number one most important thing, I thought at the time. And this caused me to work myself so hard that at 21 years of age, I burnt out for the first time, hospitalized from the burnout. Then, unfortunately, I didn't have the internal insight at the time and the introspection to really reflect on what caused that burnout that the doctors weren't even able to explain or really talk about at the time. And so I kept living in that same fashion, just pushing myself to the brims in terms of how much I could work, how much I could do, a lack of balance between my work life and personal life. But even on the home side, even though I was there, I wasn't taking care of myself. So again, 7 years ago, I burnt out again. And that one was, although not hospitalized, felt much bigger than the first one. And the effects seemed to go for much longer. And so it was after that where I really shifted and retook a look at how I'm defining success. If I actually feel like a success while I'm achieving all these external factors. And the answer was no. I had achieved all the external success that I had ever wanted and then some. And I was the least happy I'd ever been. And so that is when I really sat down, got serious with myself, and just completely transformed my routines, how I was showing up, how I was prioritizing, and what success actually meant to me.
Yeah, really fascinating, because like I said, I had the same thing. I had I had the job, the career, and just everything else. I looked perfect, but inside I was like crumbling, and I was living my parents' life instead of my life. How did these experiences shape your approach to success and well-being? And what are you doing now? You're helping others, kind of talk about that.
Yes. So after that, I really redefined, what does success mean to me? And what it means to me now is it's a feeling inside of my body. It has nothing to do with those external factors, although I'm still very driven, and external factors, in a sense, are important. They're not the whole picture. So I use a holistic version now, right? So all those are part of the story. Now it's like, okay, well, how else do I thrive? I thrive when I'm moving my body and exercising regularly. So guess what? That's part of my everyday routine. And adventure allows me to thrive. So I go on that once a month adventure with my best friend, and we don't allow anything else to get in the way. We book it out 4 weeks in advance, so nothing else can interfere. So Yes, right now I'm very strategic in terms of how I set up my days, my months, so that it feels good. Not just checking off the boxes, but I actually feel in tune with my body. I feel at ease. I feel excited and happy. And that's exactly what I help individuals as well as business teams achieve now. Because what I'm seeing is that there's actually this very heavy feeling that's happening in the corporate world. And that is, although the companies are chasing to have this crazy, beautiful impact on the world
Mm.
and on society, their own team members are on the verge of burnout, are going
Mm.
on stress leave or mental health leave. And there
Mhm.
is more individuals going on mental health leave than ever before. In
Mm.
fact, I've looked at recent statistics and it says here in Canada, 21% of employees are struggling with mental health challenges
Mhm.
and is costing employers $6.3 billion annually. And
Mhm.
that's just Canada. Canada is a much smaller country, people wise, compared to the United States. So you can imagine what those numbers might be in the United States. And so now I help organizations and teams to create existence where they have happy, healthy, thriving team members.
Mhm.
Because when employees are showing up and they are happy, healthy, and thriving, they are incredibly more productive, more effective in their work. They have greater collaboration. And so I come in and I offer these monthly wellness workshops that are really an interactive experience that allow individuals to see how they are personally showing up or not showing up in these various aspects of their life, and
Mhm.
then providing the tools and techniques to show up more mindfully so that we can achieve success in the long term, not just right now, but in the long term, right? So that includes our health.
Start your wellness journey at Whole Foods Market, where it's Jumpstart January through the 16th. Stock up on supplements with some of the year's biggest savings. Plus, save on air-chilled organic boneless skinless chicken breasts, organic Honeycrisp apples, organic large Hass avocados, and more. And since Whole Foods Market is the only certified organic national grocer, it's easy to make them your wellness destination. Jumpstart your January now at Whole Foods Market.
Yeah, very powerful. And so kind of, piggybacking off those two is, one thing is like my wife and I, we go to Vancouver every summer, get away from the Texas heat. And,
Mhm.
like we were there last year and it was like people like on Robson Street, and people are just honking and in a rush. And I was like, man, this reminds me of New York City. And I was like, and
Mm.
if it's happening in Canada, I think, think about like, where people are really laid back, and just think about what the states are just like, it's crazy. Here's another question I have. As an entrepreneur, we're very driven, and like this year I vowed to just kind of, do less. And this feeling is like when I do less, it's like I feel like I have to do more. Like I feel like I'm missing
Mm.
out. What is that?
Mm. Well, society has taught us to constantly be going, going, going. I feel it's almost become a competition,
Uh-huh.
right? You see it on social media all the time. People are putting it on their Facebook page, on their Instagram page, whatever it might be. It's like this competition to
Yeah.
see who can be busier, even though it doesn't feel good for all of us. And you
Yeah.
talk to so many people, and so many people want to slow down. They want to have more self-care. They want to have more time with their loved ones, but they keep rushing to the end.
Oh,
And so it's that fear of missing out, that fear of, oh my God, I'm one
mm,
of the only ones doing it differently. Am
mm.
I the one that's mistaken?
Yeah.
Right? Because when you see 98% of society doing things differently than you think you're supposed to follow the sheep, right? Follow the herd.
Yeah.
But in fact, the herd isn't doing it right.
Yeah. It's really fascinating because, in my younger years, I could go like 24 hours, nonstop. And now it's aging. It's like my energy and my concentration, I'm pretty good like for first half. And then after that, it's just downhill. And it's just like, I gotta, but, it's like you feel like, oh man, I'm missing out on the viewers. I gotta post now because,
Mm.
otherwise I've missed out on these viewerships and followers. And it's very stressful. So I just had, just turn it off.
And I can connect to that so much. I feel like, especially starting off as an entrepreneur, it's really easy to get caught on that cycle, right? You look at all of the statistics and it's like, oh, if you post at this time of day, and then if you do 10 minutes of engagement beforehand, and then you do, 20 to 60 minutes after, then you'll boost the algorithm and more people will see your things. And you get so caught up in every single like in the exact moment of posting everything. But I
Yeah.
know for me, if I look back at my stats, while I was doing that, because don't get me wrong, I did that for a while. That didn't necessarily lead to higher clientele, to
Uh-huh.
more income in my bank account.
Uh-huh.
What led to that for me is the in-person interactions, is getting out and speaking, is talking to people one-on-one,
Mm.
right? But it's so easy to get caught up in the social media world. Even in LinkedIn, it's a more professional version, but it's the same darn thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's the same thing. It's like, is this actually getting me the results that I want? Yes
Yeah.
or no? Okay. So how can I dial this back?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And, like I said, if it's like, I kind of looked at just like, the return on, what you're doing. And it's just like the biggest return is when the clients actually want to, pay you and reach out and you're getting in front of people and, actually doing, the rest is just kind of just marketing and,
Mhm.
advertising. So, which brings me to this next question is this, you have, this holistic approach to coaching, and it incorporates just psychological foundations, alternative healing. Elaborate on this combination and why it's effective.
Yeah, so it really comes down to my own style. So my entire life, I was taught to be a very logical, very strategic thinker. And what I only discovered, I would say, probably 7 years ago after I had that burnout, is how heart-centered of a human being I actually am. And that I
Mm,
am more heart-centered, what I've discovered now, versus what I was trained to be as that logical being. And so combining the two of them has actually been very effective, right? Because yes, we need logic in our everyday life to not just be busy, but to show up and do things strategically,
yeah.
right? To save that time, to work smarter versus harder. So that's where the logic and the strategy comes into play. And some examples of that would be my daily and my weekly planning, right? So every week I write down my top priorities for business and personal, right? It's important to include that personal in there, not just the business, or the personal goes by the wayside. What we
Yeah.
don't schedule doesn't happen. So make sure to include the personal in there. And then each day I prioritize from 1 to 8, my top 8 priorities. And I don't move on to number 2 until after I finish number 1, or else it's really easy to get caught up in the just doing for the sake of doing, right? Like, for example, social media, for example. So that's the logical side that I bring in. But the more heart-centered or more holistic approach that I bring in is those areas that allow you to drop into your body. This
Mm,
is the part that actually allows me to feel like a success in my body. So the first thing that actually kickstarted that for me was meditation. I
yeah.
had heard about meditation for years, but didn't really think twice about it, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
And when I did start thinking about it, I also told myself I didn't have time to do it, right? I was too busy. Well, I've more recently or since then heard a quote that says, if you don't have time to meditate for 10 minutes a day, that means you need to meditate for 60 minutes a day,
Uh,
right? Because that means you need it for your stress management that much more.
mhm,
So I've started meditating and I meditate every single day.
mhm.
And what I have loved about that is I've noticed beautiful shifts in
Yeah.
how I show up in my everyday interactions. So I used to be incredibly stressed out because I was so go, go, go and didn't have any of these stress management techniques, that I was reactive to the people who I loved most,
Uh-huh.
right? To my husband, to my dear young children. And it drove me crazy because I know that they don't deserve that and that they didn't deserve that. But when I started meditating consistently, and I would say I really noticed a difference 4 months in,
Mhm.
is that I was no longer reactive. I actually could witness my own thoughts, choose the response I wanted, and then calmly go about that. And so to me, that has been such a beautiful gift. It also has dropped down the anxiety in my body. The heart doesn't race as fast. I just feel more calm. I've been able to sleep way better. The quality of my sleep has increased drastically. So meditation is one of those. Intentional breathing, right? So oftentimes I'll make sure I have a few minutes between each meeting, not back to back, so that I can just release and let go. And so it's these intentional type activities, journaling. I'm huge into journaling, and not from the form of just what's on my mind. It's like, what is bothering me and what can I learn from this?
Mm.
Right? It's using it as a tool to show up even more effectively. So these are some of I'm going on a little bit, but these are some of the holistic strategies that I really bring into my own daily life as well as into my clients.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Dropping into your body, listening to your body, having like the one former guest, he just like these 1 to 2 minute mental check-in, and he calls them calibrations, and
Okay.
just like throughout the day, and as he's tired or just kind of, he's off center, it helps him center himself and be more effective for the latter part. Kind of talking about industry challenges, you've incorporated this really fascinating holistic tools, and you've had a significant career in male dominated industries. What challenges did you face as underrepresented in this field? How do you navigate these for the female and underrepresented individuals listening to our live stream?
Yeah. Well, and it was I was one of the very few women because I was in construction.
Mm,
And so it's a very male dominated industry. And the
yeah.
first role that I was in, I would be one of the only females that was on the job site.
Oh,
And, at first it was quite an intimidating feeling, mostly because it wasn't the same group of men that I knew. I was walking onto new job sites
oh,
each time. So that felt uncomfortable because in some of those situations, it was me being looked at in not a professional manner, right? And so in those moments, it really was important for me to connect down to myself
mhm,
and remind myself that I am not how somebody else might perceive me.
mhm,
Right. So if
mhm,
somebody else perceives me perhaps in a sexual manner versus in the business setting that I am standing there in,
mhm, mhm.
that is on them and how they're showing up in this world. That
Yeah.
has nothing to do with me or the value that I have to bring. And so it's really important to have that mindfulness. And, we can't control the first thoughts that we have because
Mhm,
sometimes it would be a limiting thought that would show up for me. But then what I chose to do with that thought was really important. The next job that I had, there was more females because I was more in the interior construction versus building entire buildings from the ground up.
mhm.
So there was a lot of designers and there would be a few female engineers. Oftentimes in those positions, it was just assumed by the men, oh, you're a designer. No, actually, I'm the project manager and I am managing you and making sure that you're showing up and doing things the way that I expect.
Mm,
And it took a while. There was a pushback by a number of individuals, a lot of older men than me, right? So not only am I a female, I'm also younger in a construction world. Some of them had challenges with that. And there was a lot of pushback. But when I continued to show up
mhm,
with that confidence, even if I had to fake it till I make it, right? It really showed them a different level of respect for me versus just backing down and pretending that I'm not as on an equal plane as them. And so I think that's really important is don't let others tell you how to show up or how to feel about yourself.
yeah. Yeah, very powerful. The previous guest, he was talking about, getting over yourself, and just it's not about you, and kind of the way people talk about you and perceive you, that's their thing,
Yeah.
and again, what people, I can think of one of the good sayings is what people think of you or is none of our business. So,
Right.
uh,
Yeah. And how they talk about us has everything to do with them
yeah,
and not with us because
yeah,
they're putting their own filter on it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Rounding it out for listeners who are aspiring to step up in their personal lives, they're struggling with self-doubt, imposter syndrome, that's very common among. So what advice do you give them to help them rediscover their self-worth and inner connection?
Yeah, journaling. 100% journaling. First of all, it's recognizing though that if you're experiencing imposter syndrome, it's because you are challenging yourself,
Mm.
right? You are putting yourself in environments where you are being challenged.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you would never have that comparison.
Hmm.
Right. And so that is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to actually feel that imposter syndrome because you've put yourself in an opportunity to grow.
Mm.
And so when you shift your own perspective to see the imposter syndrome as an opportunity to grow and to embrace it and get curious about it, it's like, okay, yeah, you think I'm not good enough. Well, let's explore all the reasons why I am good enough. What
Yeah.
do I have to, what value do I have to bring to this? And literally ask yourself those questions
Yeah.
and then respond. And when you're responding in your journal, don't even think about it in your head first. Just put the pen to paper and just start writing and see what comes out. And I promise you, you will be surprised.
Yeah.
But if you try and think about your answer first and then strategically write the answer,
Mhm.
then there's no point in journaling. You might as well just keep it up here. But the thing is, keeping it up here is not working that well for you. So let's try, let's
Yeah.
just try showing up and journaling without expectation.
Yeah. Yeah, very powerful. I always love these gut checks. You tune in and kind of how you're feeling, and just I feel like an imposter a lot of times too, and it's good to know that that's a signal that you're challenging yourself and your beliefs.
Absolutely.
How can people find out more about you and the work that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So they can go to my website. It's jenniferkeable.com. It's just JenniferKeable.com. And they'll see there's tools on there. So if you want to access some of my tools that I have to offer, some of those resources, absolutely. They're free to download or to use. If you want to schedule a call and just have a chat, we can do that too. If you're an organization and you want to find out how to bring greater wellness to your team, how to allow them to become more effective, there's information on there as well. Yeah, lots of resources and testimonials. Check me out. I'm friendly. I love to say hi. Reach out anytime.
Yeah. And for all the audience out there listening, Jennifer, for coming on and wishing everybody a successful new year. And be sure to check out all her links and the resources, follow her on socials. And with that, thanks so much for coming on to the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.